What's up, everyone? This is Noa Dalzell, and I'm here with another episode of WNBA Today on CLNS. And today we are going to predict which WNBA team is going to make a big leap in the standings next season. And before I begin, I will disclaim most of the league is entering free agency. We don't even know if there will be a league next year because CBA negotiations are ongoing, and most reporting indicates that there's still a pretty sizable gap between what the players and the players union want and what the WNBA wants and league leadership and ownership groups. So we don't know that this year is even going to happen. But that being said, it's the WNBA offseason, and we're going to just make some predictions. And this is going to be a space for me to share mine, and you guys can let me know what you think in the comment section. And if there's another team you expect will make a big leap next season. So, first and foremost, this was a no brainer for me. I really feel confident that this team is going to make a big leap. And if I end up being wrong, this will be one of my freezing cold takes, in which when you work in basketball media, you find that you have a lot of those. So that's the first thing I'll say. The Indiana Fever last year had a weird season. They were 24-20. They make the playoffs and they win a playoff series for the first time in Kelsey Mitchell's career. And despite that, it was just not unexpected the way that it all kind of unfolded, because Caitlin Clark, who is one of the faces of this team, if not the face of the team, misses most of the year with various soft tissue injuries. She doesn't play for the entire playoffs. She's ruled out of the playoffs in advance. And so that's one kind of weird thing. And then the other weird part of it is that so much of their success was in large part due to the players that came in on hardship contracts. I mean, you can't talk about the Indiana Fever's playoff run without talking about Odyssey Sims, who is honestly probably unlikely to be on the roster next year. I mean, we'll see, but she was somebody that came in on a temporary basis and ended up playing a massive role. But what stood out about the Fever is that they came within an overtime period away from making the WNBA Finals, and they lose to the Las Vegas Aces in a 5-game series in the semifinals, and the the Las Vegas Aces end up going out and winning the finals for the third time in 4 seasons. And so when I was watching that team, that playoff run, I really fell in love with this Fever team. And what sucks is that Fever team will never exist again. You saw so many injuries. I mean, this was the most injury-plagued team that I can remember in recent years, between Aria McDonald's injury, Sydney Colson, obviously Caitlin Clark, but it just felt like every time something good was happening, Chloe Bibby comes in and starts to play well, she's ruled out. Like, it just was one thing after the other. Sophie Cunningham's crucial for this team. She tears her meniscus. It was just, or MCL. So it was just a tough stretch of basketball for an Indiana team that just kept finding ways to weather punches and weather the storm. And yet they kept winning and they kept finding ways to advance. And I thought their first round victory over the Atlanta Dream was super impressive. A Dream team that was among the best teams in the league all season long, that had home court advantage, that had Alicia Gray playing at an MVP level for much of the season, Ryan Howard. Like, that was just a well-oiled machine. And the Fever go out shorthanded and beat them. So that's the kind of thing, though, that when you look at like these Cinderella runs, a lot of times it's like capturing lightning in a bottle, and it's like you don't know if you're ever going to be able to recreate that. And I don't know that they will, right? But in that moment, Aaliyah Boston is learning big things, right? Kelsey Mitchell is learning big things. The group is coming together. Lexi Hull had some big time performances, big time defensive plays. Caitlin Clark's not playing, but she's on the sidelines watching it all unfold, almost from a coach's perspective. And I think that when it's all said and done, and you look back at her career, her sophomore year injuries could end up being a really crucial part to her longer term development. You look at Stephanie White, this is an opportunity for her to establish herself as a coach for this team and establish her principles and get buy in from all these competing actors and competing players and competing interests. So even though it's not like they're bringing back the exact same roster, you're bringing back the same culture. And that culture was established last year with Stephanie White's first year at the helm. And it's going to translate to the tier 2. Normally, when you have like a big playoff run like that, it does translate to the following year, even if you don't bring back all the pieces. And so that's the first reason why I'm optimistic for how the Fever are going to improve from a 24-20 team and have a better record in year 2. The other reason that I'm kind of optimistic right now about this group is that if you look across the league, very few teams have their core lockdown. I mean, I was just thinking about the Seattle Storm. Their only rotation player next season is Dominique Malonga. Like, we have no idea how some of these teams are going to fare. So what you do have is your young core. Like, that is, the players that are on their rookie deals. Who do the Fever have under contract? Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. That as a starting point is an awesome place to be. And Lexi Hall is a restricted free agent, and I think they're going to try to do what they can to lock her down. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It is the holiday season, the best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, what games to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right: PrizePicks. There have been some incredible individual performances so far this season. You can watch Steph Curry, who has been incredible. You can watch Patrick Mahomes, Austin Reeves. There have been players all over the country across all different sports. You can select them for your prize picks, whether that is field goals made, free throws made, fantasy score, turnovers even. I know a couple players who really stack up their free throws. Tonight, that was Jaylen Brown. That was not the case in the previous game. Is your fantasy season already over? My team is cooked, but with PrizePicks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft. PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football every week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projection every week. No draft required. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the bigger payouts, go for the Power Play. No matter your play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So you look at Caitlin Clark. Obviously, she had a tough year last year with all the injuries, but in her rookie season, she was awesome. She was all WNBA in her rookie season, one of the best rookie campaigns you've ever seen, near unanimous rookie of the year. I have no reason to think she's not going to pick up where she left off and have an even better third season. It'll be her third year in the league, but technically like second full season. But I have no reason to think that that's not going to happen. Aaliyah Boston had to shoulder more responsibilities last year, and especially during the playoffs, than maybe she anticipated because of all the injuries. And I think that's going to be a great learning opportunity for her. Defensively, she was able to do things that very few bigs in the league were able to do last year. I still think she posed the biggest challenge to Asia Wilson of anybody she faced in that playoff run, and the numbers would back that up. So while I don't know who the core around Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston is going to be, the fact that those two players are under contract is you're already way better than where most teams stand entering, next season. And as I mentioned, Lexi Hall, she was a big time rotation player, inserted into the starting lineup, does so many little things, just a competitor, can space the floor, can shoot the ball well. If they can keep her back under contract next season as well, that's a great 3 players to start with. The other thing that gives me optimism for the Fever next season is that while Kelsey Mitchell is an unrestricted free agent, I think she's going to re-sign with Indiana. And there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, she spent her entire career there. And I think that if you're a player that has done that, it's easier to stay with the same team. Obviously, we see players leave their current teams and go elsewhere all the time, but she has waited so long for this Indiana team to find success, and now they're finally finding it. And so to stick through all the dark days and all the years where they missed the playoffs, now they make the playoffs back-to-back years. They finally win a playoff series. For her to leave now, to me, would be a mistake. And obviously, there's money, there's personal dynamics. Like if she ends up going elsewhere for another reason, like all the power to her, and I'm sure she'll make the right choice for her career. But looking at it purely from like the basketball standpoint, to leave now would be really hard. And from everything that I've seen, and I'm not based in Indiana, and I know I don't cover that team in particular, I cover the league at large, but from everything that I've seen, this Fever team has totally embraced her. The players around her have totally embraced her. And the way that they rallied for her to be named to the first team All WNBA team last year was really eye-opening to me, because they could have rallied for Leah Boston. They could have not rallied all that much in general. I mean, I was a WNBA media voter, and a lot of teams didn't make a very strong campaign for players where I'm like, you could have campaigned for that player to be defensive player of the year. You could have campaigned for that player to be on the All WNBA team, and you didn't. That was just something that I observed a lot throughout my time as a media voter. But they made sure that Kelsey Mitchell was going to be on the first team All WNBA. So they wanted that for her. They advocated for it. They made it a focal point in media inquiries. They made it a focal point in the things that they sent out gift packages to all the voters. And like, this is a small thing, but for Kelsey Mitchell right now, like she could be saying to herself, okay, I want to be the face of a franchise. And I feel like the Fever's face of the franchise is Caitlin Clark. And I just don't think that's going to be the way she processes things, because they have prioritized her all the time. Like, I'm not saying that she is the face over Caitlin Clark. Like, obviously, Caitlin Clark has brought so many eyes to that fan base. The reason why the Indiana Fever have the fan base that they have is because of Caitlin. And I don't think it should be Caitlin versus Kelsey Mitchell. Like, I think that's a stupid conversation to have. But I would be surprised if she feels slighted by the way she's been treated in Indiana, because I think for everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard, they've totally embraced her. So if they can lock her up, I mean, she was a top 5 MVP vote recipient. They can lock her up alongside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. I mean, that is the best young core in the WNBA that you already have under contract. So if she doesn't return, things get a little dicey. So my big leap is predicated on the fact that I think Kelsey Mitchell is going to come back for a second season, or no, sorry, not second season, for another season. But we'll see if that happens. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to have to reconsider here. And some of the other key free agents, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, we'll see who's able to come back. There's going to be some turnover that is just inevitable across the league. There's going to be a lot of turnover. That's what happens when the entire league is entering free agency at the same time. So I'm really curious to see how everything's going to shake out. But right now, if I had to pick one team to make a leap in the standings, I think it's going to be the Indiana Fever. The last thing I'll say is any doubts that there were around Stephanie White as a head coach, I think should have been at least quelled in that last season, because no matter who she had available night in and night out, her team was the harder playing team. Her team was prepared, and there is a clear level of buy-in from when players were asked about playing under Stephanie White. They gushed, they praised her, and that was a very connected locker room. So even if they have a different 12 players on their roster next season, the fact that Stephanie White as the head coach gives me a lot of confidence in that group. There are going to be a lot of new head coaches, a lot of new situations. You never know how things are going to play out. You never know how a new head coach, maybe on paper they look really good, but now that they're going to be in that role, it could be a disaster, right? There was a lot of optimism around Chris Goklanes, but he struggled in his first season with the Dallas Wings. They let him go after the first year. So I'm not doubting in particular any of the rookie coaches, but there is just a big question mark for me around all of them. Whereas with Stephanie White, at this point in her career, she's coached a lot of different kinds of basketball teams. Obviously, she was a critical part of this, the Connecticut Sun. I covered that team as a beat reporter, so I had a lot of experience covering her and saw the way that she was just able to maximize different groups on a nightly basis. Last year, I thought was her most impressive coaching season yet. I didn't vote for her for Coach of the Year, but honestly, I should have considered it more after seeing the way that playoff run turned out. So definitely curious to see how this offseason goes for all the teams, but I have a lot of optimism right now that the Indiana Fever are going to make a big leap. They were literally 5 minutes away from making the WNBA Finals, and while that team is probably not going to be the team they have next year, they have Caitlin Clark, they have Aaliyah Boston, they'll probably have Lexi Hull, and I think they're going to have Kelsey Mitchell, and that's a really good place to start. Let me know if there's another team that you're excited about for next year. Is there a sleeper team that you think is going to make a leap? Obviously, there were some teams that really struggled the last few years. The Dallas Wings could be another pick because they had the worst record in the league, but they have the number 1 pick again. What are they going to do with, Paige Becker as a young core? Can they make a jump? We'll see. Enrique Agombawale had a tough season last year. Whether they keep her and she has a better season or they trade her for something else, I think that team is another level that they can get to after a really tough couple of seasons. So let me know who you're excited about. As always, subscribe to WNBA Today on CLNS. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll have more content coming out soon.